Yo, what's up guys? It's the new sensation, Bigger Notation here, and hopefully if all of my editing processes have gone correctly, then you guys just saw the new intro for the channel, and I want to give a big shout out to Scrub Games, who really came up with the idea for the intro and put it all together for me. He's been working with a lot of pixel art stuff recently, so he just decided to put it all together for me, and I really appreciate him doing that, so big shout out to you, Scrub Games. And if you guys want to check out the Scrub Games channel, I'll have a link in the description to that below. And for the video today, I'm just going to be going over the next round of the Rising Phoenix Odyssey tournament. And as always with all of these videos, I want to give a big shout out to Rising Phoenix Odyssey, and I'll have a link to his channel in the description below as well. But thank you for hosting the tournament, and it's always really good fun to play in it. For those that don't know, it's kind of like a Dragon Ball Super YouTuber tournament, so the idea is for smaller Dragon Ball YouTubers to come together and face off against each other with some of the more interesting decks that they've come up with for their channels. And for this round I was facing against Fluf from Attack On Productions, and I want to give a big shout out to him as well, and the whole Attack On Productions team. They do some really cool gameplays on their channel and some really cool deck profiles. Their stuff is very high quality, so I definitely recommend checking them out, and I'll also have a link to their channel in the description below. But big shout out to them. Earlier in the tournament I played against another one of their members, Bancroft, and he's currently my only loss at this point of recording for this tournament. So I was very excited to play against another one of their members, because I know that they are definitely some really good players. And as you can see here from the gameplay, I'm playing Red Jiren and my opponent is playing the yellow Gotenks deck. Now this Red Jiren build is a little bit different to the one that I actually profiled on the channel. This build is made to be a lot more competitive, and the reason that I'm playing this build instead of the more fun build that I profiled earlier on the channel is because I have a tournament coming up this week for TCG Metals, and so I'm just kind of testing around for that. And I'm planning to play Red Jiren in that, so after that tournament I'll likely do a profile on the more competitive Red Jiren build that I've got going on. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely stay tuned, hit the subscribe button to get notified when that comes out. But for now, we'll get straight into the gameplay. So this Red Jiren build is obviously very aggressive, looking to kill around turn 3, turn 4. And most yellow decks, or a deck like yellow Gotenks, is looking to play much more of a long game. So I know that going into this matchup I'm going to be the aggressor, and so I know that I need to be killing him and really trying to kill him earlier in the game and really trying to apply that early pressure so that he is running low on cards, and it makes it a little bit harder for him to set up his later plays. So here I drew my 6 cards, and as with a lot of the Red Jiren mulligans, I didn't see my unison, and so I just put the entire hand back. With Red Jiren, I feel like the real only necessary keep in your opening mulligan is the unison, and that is the main card that you're searching for. And you could argue that you keep cards like the 4-drop Evolve Jiren in case you see the unison, or the Yamcha Merciless Barrage, just because the 4-drop Evolve Jiren is a good play even without the unison, but the Yamcha Merciless Barrage is obviously amazing with the unison. But if I don't see the unison, most of the time I'm just putting my entire hand back, because I feel like it's the main necessary card in the deck that you need to be finding on turn 1. And so as you can see, even after mulliganing my entire hand, I didn't manage to see the unison. So I just do a very simple turn 1 of using the leader effect to take a life and search top 7. I hit a Kunshi, which isn't amazing, but it's not too bad. At least I hit something right. So it gets me a draw, and then sadly, because it's not a Jiren, I'm not going to be able to evolve my 5-drops onto it. But hopefully I can hit a Jiren next turn. My opponent does a very simple play of swinging leader to leader, taking a life, drawing a card. I obviously take the damage. I don't need to out combo. I want to awaken as soon as I can because I need to start applying pressure to him as early as possible. And then he plays 1 for Basil and passes. I think that he probably could have done with attacking into the Kunchi either with his leader or with the Basil. I think that attacking with his leader into it would have probably been better, because him attacking into my leader means that I'm now on 5 life by turn 2, which makes testing the opposition life going into his turn 2. But it also means that I can awaken on turn 3, and that is really ideal for the Jiren deck, because it means, because the 8-drop is coming out on turn 3, and for the Jiren deck that's quite an expensive play, because it's 2 energy for an aggressive deck. And so having the extra energy from my Awaken skill going into turn 3 will be really, really important in being able to apply a bunch of pressure onto him and trying to kill him. Because it'll effectively make the 8-drop a 1 energy play, which is really, obviously really powerful. So here I have just set up my board. I've ended up tapping 1 for a Jiren that I had in hand, just so that I can make the most of my energy. I think that potentially I could have just kept the energy open and used it for a spirit boost play on the Jiren that I have in rest mode there, because I could have played the 1-drop from my hand anyway off of the Unison +1. But I figured because I already have the 4-drop, I'm probably going to evolve that with Spirit Boost, and that's what I end up doing here. And then I can kill his Basil as well. So I'm just evolving the 4-drop. I believe he swang into my rested 1-drop, which is why I chose to evolve the 4-drop over the rested 1-drop, because it means that the 4-drop is now going to be 15k, so it kind of saved the 1-drop. He combos his Bardock the Eliminator, and I combo Koitsukai, and then we both had this moment where we had to read Bardock the Eliminator, or I had to read it for the first time. I think he'd already read it before. But we were both reading over Bardock the Eliminator's first auto, and I didn't even know it had this effect, where it can play itself, but you have to, it says you choose one of your opponent's skillless battle cards, and they either KO it, or you get to play this card, and the opponent gets the choice. But we were reading over it and we noticed that it didn't say you may choose up to 1. So because I didn't have a skillless battle card and that part was part of the card text's cost, we assumed that that wasn't an actual play that he could make. We weren't entirely sure because neither of us have really well, I've never really read the card before, but he wasn't sure either, so neither of us were entirely sure how that worked, but we assumed that you couldn't do it because it was part of the skill's cost. But here he's gone into his Lord Slug chain, and he used the 20k swing to try and pressure down my 4-drop, and with that I wanted testing the opposition because it's going to take me down to 4 life, and it's also going to protect my 4-drop. And even though he has his Lord Slug in play right now, it's not live. So that's really good for me, but I'm just going to tap 2 and use the 8-drop Red Jiren to -35 it to get it off the board, because the Red Jiren goes through barrier. And here, because he's on 5 life, I'm going to swing with my double striker first, so that if he wants to awaken and take the damage, which he ends up doing, he's going to go down to 3 life, and that puts him into a really bad spot, because it means that with 1 single strike and 1 double strike swing, I can probably try and kill him. And I already have the double strike swing on my board because I can restand my Red Jiren. And if I can get some more evolves going after I awaken, then I'll be able to get a big, like up to a 30k swing on my leader, which will make for the single strike swing. And so those will be 2 very big swings that he has to out combo to survive, which is really good for me. And so here I've decided to use, I was debating not using the frontside leader effect because you have to take a life when you search the top 7. I ended up using it because I thought I could kill him this turn. And because I also have the Pan secret rare in my hand and a Yamcha Merciless Barrage. So even if I don't kill him this turn, I have some really good defensive options going into his next turn. But something important to note during this turn is I cannot play the Bardock Overrealm or the Pan Secret Rare during this turn because I've already evolved my 8-drop Jiren, and that restricts me to only U11 battle cards for the rest of the turn. So here I've awakened, and I awakened before evolving the 5-drop, so my leader gets a 5k boost. I then evolve the 5-drop and swing 5-drop into his leader, and he uses Zamasu the Eliminator, or not Zamasu the Eliminator, the Zamasu Super Combo, sorry, to rest my leader, which was a really strong play on his part. And the reason that I was swinging with the 5-drop first over the leader was just because I was trying to get, I was waiting to see if I could get another evolve so that my leader would get another 5k boost. But also I want to make good use of the 5k boost off of my 8-drop Jiren, but because he rested the leader, I'm not going to be able to make use of that. So that was arguably a little bit greedy against the yellow deck, because Zamasu the Eliminator is obviously a card that's worth playing around. But I think that most yellow decks currently are opting to run draw super combos instead, really. So here I swing with the 8-drop and I don't combo in at all, and he ends up taking it, so he's actually down to 1 life here. But the issue with it is I don't have any real battle cards or threats that I can play, because most of my threats in my hand are non-universe 11s, and I don't have any 1-drop Jirens on the board to evolve into, and I also haven't got a 4-drop Jiren that I can then play a 1-drop for 1 energy and then evolve the 4-drop over. So I end up just swinging with my Cyberman token to try and apply a little bit more pressure going into his turn, because I have 2 super combos that I can burn through, and if he doesn't have super combos, then he's going to be burning through a lot of his cards in hand. And so as you can see, I combo up to 25k, and he ends up going up to 30k, which takes 3 cards out of his hand, which is really convenient for me. I then use the 1-drop Jiren in my drop area to go search for a Jiren with an evolve skill that costs 5 or less, and I grab a 4-drop. Arguably, I definitely should have done this before, and then I could have tapped 1 to play this 1-drop and swung with the 4-drop and applied pressure using that, because it would have been 10k extra power that I would have been swinging with instead of the token. But I just entirely forgot about that 1-drop Jiren being in my drop area. So here at the end of the turn, I just use my Topo Unison to play a 1-drop from my hand in rest mode, and then that searches me another 4-drop. So I have a lot of defensive options going into his turn. I have a 4-drop, a 5-drop that I can Spirit Boost in. I have Pan's Secret Rare, which I immediately use on his leader swing, and I also have Yamcha Merciless Barrage, which is live because my Unison is on 4 markers. So it's going to be really hard for him to turn that off before he can play a battle card. So here he swings with leader, and I drop the Pan Secret Rare, and he just immediately says, let's go to game 2, because he knows he can't kill me this turn, and I have more than enough swings to apply enough pressure to kill him next turn, because I already had a massive board, and then I also had things like Bardock Overwhelm in hand, along with a bunch of evolves in my hand. So I had a lot of plays going into next turn, so he just knows that it's over and goes to game 2. I had somewhat of a sideboard for Red Jiren. It's mostly just cards that I was considering playing that I didn't end up having space for in the main deck, like extra copies of Broly Crown, because I'm running 2 copies of that, or extra copies of Koitsukai, but also cards like Vegeta Royal Evolution that I really wanted to include, but I just couldn't find the space. And also Saiyan Kaba is another card that I think works well in the deck. So going into the next game, I'll just reset the life counters. But as you can see, I saw my Unison in my opening hand this game, so I ended up being able to not only keep my Unison, but actually keep some of the rest of the hand, because now that I have the main card that I'm searching for in my opening hand, I can afford to keep the cards that are still good, but just not as detrimental to the game plan. So it means that I can keep cards like Yamcha Merciless Barrage, or any cards that have good synergy with the Unison, like the 4-drop Evolved Jiren is always a good keep with the Unison, different things like that. So here I'm taking a life with my leader effect, and I hit the 1-drop Jiren that searches top 5, which is probably one of the best starts that this deck can have, is hitting that Jiren off the top 7 and then playing the Unison to play another 1-drop. So I'm getting a lot of searches here, and finally I've managed to find my 4-drop, which was kind of the missing piece to this hand being one of the better hands that it could have been, because it offers me some free defense during his next turn. The reason that I didn't swing with my leader here onto his leader is, although I want to be applying pressure, I want to make sure that he is forced to awaken during my turn, because his leader is an untapped 2 awaken, and so if I can force him to awaken during my turn, I'm going to be in a really good spot, because he's going to be 2 energy. He's going to lose that 2 energy tempo play. And so I didn't want to swing with my leader, so that because he's gone first, and if he's taking lots of life from his leader attacks, he's going to go down to 5 life going into my turn 3, or my turn 4, I believe. And so during that turn, I can then proceed to try and apply as much pressure as possible, force him to awaken, and then he'll be 2 energy down and in a really bad spot then. So just to go over what happened that turn, he swung into my 1-drop Jiren with his leader. He ended up taking a life and drawing a card. And I just evolved the 4-drop into minus 10k on, I believe it was a 1-drop Lord Slug he had. He super comboed to put himself to 20k, brought in Poutine because he rested my leader, and then I didn't want to combo out, so I just let my 4-drop die, and then he tapped one for his Lord Slug. I don't think that keeping the 4-drop alive was at all going to be helpful for me, because as you can see going into my next turn, I already have more evolve targets. I have the 5-drops in my hand. So rather than keeping the 4-drop alive and trying to evolve that into an 8-drop on turn 3, I can just play more 1-drop Jirens down and then straight evolve them into my 5-drops. And then because they have that extra protection on their permanent skill, I can keep those alive for my 8-drop for the turn 3 play. So as you can see here, I've decided to start swinging into his leader. And the reason for that was to take him down to 6 life, which I'll just do here. So I swung exactly 1 time this turn to take him down to 6 life, because that means if he's going to swing with his leader during his turn to take a life, which is probably what he'll do because he doesn't have many cards in hand and he wants to awaken, then he will be at 5 life going into my turn 3, which is exactly what I want him to be at, because turn 3 is when I'm going to be applying most of my pressure. And that means that, because that's when I can bring down the 8-drop Jiren. And so all I need to do is 1 more damage to his leader to put him into the awaken range, and that's when I can start applying the pressure during my turn. Because I can drop my 8-drop and start swinging with massive double strikes once he's forced to awaken. Or to try and force him to awaken, sorry. So here he swung to my 1-drop Jiren and he dropped Supreme Kai. I just let the Jiren die because I didn't resolve my auto, and then he dropped the Supreme Kai on the activate battle window. He ends up swinging Supreme Kai, I believe, to my Unison. I think that was a slight misplay on his part because it leaves a window for me to do things during the battle window, because my Unison's going to die anyway due to the Supreme Kai effect. But what ends up happening is he uses the Supreme Kai effect, and because I evolved into the 5-drop on the auto from my leader, I just end up taking the life from my Jiren effect. And so here he was debating using the Supreme Kai effect or not, because I don't think he realized about the permanent effect, but then he ends up using it anyway. But what I realized after this, and what we were discussing during the game, was that even if I hadn't evolved the 5-drop Jiren, the 1-drop Jiren would have stayed, because my Kunchi was on the board that was giving it barrier. So neither of us had noticed that until right after he used the Supreme Kai effect, and I was like, oh, I didn't need to evolve the 5-drop. But it was still worth doing because it makes use of the 1 energy that I left open during his turn. And obviously it leaves me with a 5-drop on board instead of a 1-drop going into my turn 3. So here I'm on 5 life because I took the life with the 5-drop Jiren, and that's another reason why I wanted to get that 5-drop in play, was it would take me down to 5 life with the permanent skill, and that means that I can then use the activate main on my leader during turn 3, which is when I want to be applying the pressure, to take myself down to 4 life, and that will let me awaken. So as you can see, throughout this entire game, I've had the same game plan of I'm going to get to turn 3 with him on 5 life and try and force him to awaken as much as I can, and then either on turn 3 or turn 4 I'll try and kill him. And so I've been kind of guiding myself towards that end game for the early turns of the game. And so here I've been able to take a life from my leader effect, managed to hit a Jiren, didn't manage to whiff this game at all, even though last game I whiffed. So that's obviously very good, and as you can see, my hand is completely stacked right now. I've got 12 cards in hand, and I have a lot of plays available to me. I have the Bardock Overrealm, I've got the 8-drop Jiren, I have the Jiren Pride of Universe 11 2-drop, which is a really insane card in this deck because it just means that I'm able to bring out 1-drops in active mode, which isn't really an ability that the rest of the deck has, because most of the deck plays the 1-drops in rest mode. I just want to point out that during the start of this turn, I swung twice with the 5-drop, and the reasoning behind that was so that I could then activate main on my leader effect to play a 1-drop, and that would automatically trigger Poutine's skill. because it has to trigger on the first card being played by a skill, and because my 1-drop is being played in rest mode and my 5-drop will have swung twice, so it will also be in rest mode, the poutine then can't hit anything, and then I'm free to play all of my 1-drops and 4-drops and evolve chains as much as I want without having to worry about poutine. So that was the reason why I swung with the 5-drop twice before I did anything during this turn. But he ended up Zamasuing to rest my leader, and so here I just used the Jiren to revive 2 1-drops in active mode, and then evolve into my 4-drop. I tapped 1 for the Unison, I think it was before I played the 4-drop, I'm not entirely sure. But the main reason I just tapped 1 for the Unison was so that I could make good use of my Awaken untap, and so that I could also get that draw from the Awaken, because the main thing that I'm needing to play around during this turn is playing down all of my non-Universe 11 cards before I play the 8-drop. So I have Bardock Overwhelm in hand, I also have New Ruler in hand, and I also have Yamcha in hand. So he counterplays my 5-drop with the new Steadfast Assistance, and I counterplay with Yamcha because it's going to be the most value I get out of Yamcha this turn, because it kills a blocker, and I'm probably going to play the 8-drop later this turn, because that's what I'm saving my 2 energy for. And so I need to play the Yamcha out as soon as possible just to get the 15k swing. I just realized I didn't take him down to 3 life, but he's on 3 life currently, sorry about that. I believe he took some damage from the 5-drop dual attacker that I dropped on him, or the 4-drop as well. So I'm swinging with Yamcha and he ends up taking it and going down to 2 life, and I don't need any more encouragement to drop my King Piccolo New Ruler. I end up dropping a super combo and 2 Koitsukais, and then another super combo into it to take it up to a total of 50k. And he ends up losing the game off of that, I believe. So I didn't end up comboing all in on that attack, just because he had 1 energy open and he could have had like a Vegeta's Final Flash in hand or something like that. So I was playing around the possibility of him having that. But I decide, like, I don't need to go all, I'm not in a position where I need to go all in on that attack, because I then have Bardock Overwhelm to follow that up with, along with my 8-drop play. So I'm really not in a position where I need to go all in on that attack necessarily. So I just combo all of my super combos, because they're not gonna lose me any cards in hand to combo with. And then I combo Koitsukai because I want that card in the drop area anyway, and I might end up using the effect if I don't feel like playing the 8-drop this turn. But that was the end of the most recent round of Rising Phoenix Odyssey. I'm not entirely sure which round it is. I think it's maybe round 7. I'm not sure. I'm sure it will say in the title of this video. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Just want to give another shout out to Fluf for being a great opponent, and definitely check out his YouTube channel, Attack on Productions, where he's got a group of people who do some really cool commentaries over some very interesting gameplays with very unique decks for sure. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you guys want to stay updated with the rest of the tournament, definitely subscribe. I think I'm in the semi-finals or quarter-finals or something now. We're getting very close to the end. I know it's been a very, very long tournament. But definitely stay tuned for that, and also stay tuned for the Red Jiren deck profile, which I'll be dropping hopefully later this week or next week. So hit the subscribe button if you're interested in any of that stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.